All right, so we've decided to do a little round table discussion. This is Ballroom Backstage, literally backstage at the United States Dance Sport Championships, and we're bringing a roundtable discussion about coping. And we have professional dancer Natalie Grassheim with us, Linda Regis, and student dancer Michelle Wong, a student dancer who's already been on the floor, Linda Regis getting ready to go on the floor. Coping, anxiety, the judges are going to be watching you.
Yes, there's a lot of anxiety, like panic attack anxiety. I downloaded a book and I'm listening to a book on how to cope with anxiety. And
So wait, you downloaded the book and you're listening to it at the same time? Is this like two different books?
No, well, I downloaded a book, yeah. So, and listening to it in the car whenever I'm in the car.
Gotcha, yeah.
To help me get through, and it's all because of dance and just getting so anxious about it. But I do believe it's helping me.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good.
So I'm not as anxious right now.
Have you ever done anything in your professional life or before you ever started dancing? Did you do things where you're in front of people or public speaking, anything like that?
I didn't do public speaking, but I played tennis for 5 years and I competed. So that was nerve-wracking also.
Because the pressure's on.
Yes, the pressure's on. But after, let's say, a half an hour, I'm doing okay.
So there's like a little bit of warm-up period, then what, is it like you get in the zone?
You know what? Maybe that's what it is. The nerves have calmed down. I could start thinking about my routines, enjoying the ballroom, and yeah. So
What would you say, Michelle, about the coping? You've been on the floor. How does it feel?
Well, I haven't competed here at USDC yet, but I have been to multiple competitions, and I think with respect to anxiety, it gets better with each competition. So I think, there's something to be said for getting out and just doing it, and
Right.
each time it's a little bit more comfortable.
So what are the things like what are the things that you didn't expect that happen on the competition floor?
What are the things that I didn't expect?
Yeah, you're in a studio and you practice and you take your lessons and everything like that. But the competition floor, it's different. You got to walk onto the floor. You have somebody calling out what heat number you're on, and it's like you only have like a minute and change to dance.
Yeah. Let's see. The thing that I find on the competition floor is sometimes the floor craft, because when you're practicing in the studio, you have the luxury of the whole studio and generally not other people, around that you're bumping into all the time or trying not to bump into, as it were.
Right. Okay, so now Natalie, you come to it as a professional, but you have that long history of positive self-talk.
Oh yeah. All about positivity.
Feed that to me.
It's basically about, I heard one time, actually it was one of the students, I think one of the students that you danced with for 20 years said about the butterflies. When you get those butterflies before you go out on the floor, before you get on stage, you have your makeup done, your jewelry, everything, you're all ready, but you're still anxious, right? And they said, the butterflies are all sporadic. Now make sure right before you go on, you make sure they're all in formation and all in line.
The butterflies fly in
Get
formation.
them in line, right? And so then that really, honestly, that kind of opened my eyes. Okay, that helped a lot. And I'll tell you a little trick. I do have maybe one little sip of wine before I go on. It kind of calms me down.
The secret is out.
Right, so if you like a little sip of wine, that certainly doesn't hurt, right?
Maybe one or two sips of white wine, and you kind of feel like, okay, it's kind of like this calming feeling that comes over you. I don't know if it's the wine, but then you just feel like a placebo effect. Like, then I go out and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to kill this, and then you hit it.
What I didn't expect, because I have competed a handful of time in standard, I didn't realize that I would be so nervous, my mind actually went blank. So it's
Blank.
like blank. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh. So luckily
Yes.
I knew how to follow. And
Yeah.
and I made it through. And then someone gave me a glass of water afterwards. I didn't even realize I was shaking. I was like, this could hardly even hold on to that cup of water without spilling. And
Yeah.
I know you get hit sometimes when you're on the floor, but I didn't expect to get hit so hard. And one time a bobby pin actually pierced my head, and I got a bump on my head. So yeah, things like that when I was new and
But don't have
Well,
that at the
surprises.
studio.
Okay, I mean, they say it's a contact sport, you know. Okay, so let's go farther with, let's go a little deeper. How has this changed your life?
I feel as if I'm obsessed with dance. I love it so much. I feel as if I have more confidence and I can speak up for myself more than I was before because I've always been shy and on the quieter side. And actually, my sister had even said that, you know what, Linda, you're different. You've changed since you started
Wow.
dancing.
Okay, but devil's advocate here, you're the student,
Yes,
and yet you're speaking up for yourself.
yes.
So there's something to that. There's a relationship building thing going on there. But it's like you're relating to an instructor, you're relating to him on many different levels, right? Talk to me about that.
Oh, that's very nerve-wracking. I remember one time I had gone to a seminar, and one thing they did say was, you know, speak up for yourself. And I had started dancing. I worked hard at going to my lessons. I started eating better, lost 30 pounds. I would exercise quite a bit along with my dance. But one thing I wanted to be able to do were a round of my routines every lesson. And I had to ask my instructor for that, and he didn't feel that was a good thing for whatever reason. And it got so uncomfortable, like that whole discussion, I thought he was going to end up firing me or telling me he wouldn't teach me anymore. But it all worked out well. I spoke up, and it ends up we did that. And so at least whenever I went to a competition, doing a round of dance was not a new experience or unusual. I was used to doing around my routines.
Right, and some people talk about the endurance factor of competitive ballroom, and especially like the fact that in all of the different styles and disciplines, the fastest dance is safe for the end. So you have mambo at the end of American rhythm, you have Viennese waltz at the end of American smooth, quick step at the end of ballroom, and jive of all things at the end of Latin. How do you endure? Like Michelle, what do you do to build up your endurance?
Oh, just practice and time spent on my own.
Yeah.
You know. But as far as in the competition, I think all of that adrenaline carries me through. And in real life, quick step is maybe not my least favorite dance. But in the competition, when I hear the quick step music, I love it so much because I think this is the end, and I find this burst of energy, and I'm
Final
so
sprint.
happy, and I enjoy it so much.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, I think during the competition, it's sort of all of the energy of the competition and the people around, and you know that kick that carried me through.
So what would you say to somebody, like if you're seeing somebody who's having maybe a bad day at the competition, what would you say to them to like feed them, give them advice to keep them going?
Sometimes I look at it as a job, even though this is my hobby and I'm a student. When I go on the ballroom floor, I have a job to do, and I just try to remember that. So, for example, in my real life, when I go to work, if I'm feeling, you know, not quite 100%, I have a job to do, and I have to give my 100%. So I try not to let the feelings get in the way of me doing my job of dancing, you know, even as a student.
But dancing is feeling. So if you have an emotion, I mean, they all say if you have an emotion, there's all people out there talking about bringing emotion, be in the moment.
They all come up somehow when you dance.
Yeah.
They start blowing up.
Yeah. So how do you control all of those different emotions with anxiety, passion, love, hate, anger, desire? How do you channel all that? Anybody?
Well, I have to say, I'm always talking to myself, like in my mind while I'm dancing. And there are times where it's like, oh my gosh, gosh, why did I sign up for this? What did I get myself into?
Yeah.
And then after a few dances or a few rounds and getting into the competition, it's like, okay, Linda, just chill out, relax. You're here because you love dance. Just enjoy yourself. And by the end, I am so happy, so excited that I'm here at the event, especially USDC. This is the biggest event that I've ever been to, so it's really exciting for me. And so I'm nervous, but I think I may be more excited than nervous for this.
Because in the long run, when this is all over and on Sunday morning everybody's flying or driving home, you're going to be able to say that you competed at the national championships.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does it feel? And be honest here, please be honest. How does it feel when, like, your friends that aren't dancers look at you and say, "Oh, I could never do that"?
Well, all my friends are dancers.
Dead silence. And all of your friends are dancers. Well, all my friends are dancers, so they all can do it. But, okay, so what about dancing then? What about dancing sets it apart from everything else in your life? What is it? What feelings does it give you that you can't get anywhere else?
I mean, it's all in one, really. So it is my gym, so, exercise. It's my therapy. It's my escape, from my real life. It's my social,
Apparently, it's all of your socials since all your friends are dancers.
Exactly. And it is very mentally challenging, so I'm continually learning and pushing myself to learn and do something mental and physical. So, that is really special. That's not something that, you find anywhere.
I would add to that, it's almost like a drug. I mean, it's so exciting and it puts me on such a high, just even driving to my dance lesson, and I'll drive an hour or even an hour and a half to my dance lesson, and that could be 3, 4, 5 times a week. And on the way, I'm listening to either Latin music or, some kind of ballroom dance music, and literally I'm on a high and I just cannot wait to get there. I'm so excited.
Do you ever think about the people that might be watching you, like while you're dancing? Do you ever think about what you're sharing with them?
Actually, I haven't.
I think recently, maybe in the last year or so, my anxiety about competing is more under control, where I can have more of an awareness of the audience and the judges and things like that. So it is starting to come in, whereas before, when I first started, everything was a blur. I didn't know who was there, what was what, what direction I was facing, nothing. But now that I've kind of settled in, I have at least more of an awareness.
The fog starts to go away and then everything's clear.
So then the next step may be to more engage
and with the
with them.
audience.
Exactly.
So then the fog goes away, everything starts to clear, those butterflies fly in formation, and dance ultimately, even though there's anxiety in the performance, it makes the anxiety go away.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, so
That's what the drug is. I feel like that one moment you get on the floor that you feel everything is in synchronicity. It's just like you can't describe it. Everything else just flows. After that, your dance steps, whatever you're feeling beforehand, it goes away, and you feel complete. Yeah.
So that pretty much sums it up then. So from the student and the professional standpoint, there's coping to be done, and that coping is uniquely individual, different stories from each one of you, but all in all, the dancing brings it out of you on the dance floor.
Yes.
Cool, guys. Cool, thanks for the interview. Awesome.
Thank you.